This video is going to show you how to prepare a test file for your clearinghouse for electronic claims with ICD-10s as your diagnosis code set. The first thing we want to do is we're going to go to the help screen about PMIS, and this screen will tell us the version of PMIS that we're running. We want to at least be on the second quarter 2015. This screen also tells me that I'm currently in a ICD-9 code set, preferred code environment. So this means that PMIS right now is going to send out ICD-9 codes, and ICD-9 is the preferred code set at this point. We can also see the version of the HCFA form, and this is running IP_P1514L. This version of the HCFA form is the current version. So I_P1514L is the version that you are going to want to have in your system to send a test with. The next thing we need to do is verify which code set the insurance company is set for. In PMIS, you are able to tell the system specific insurance companies that you want to continue to file ICD-9s on after the transition date, but this also gives us the ability to create a claim file or print claims with ICD-10s on them before the transition date just for a specific company. So I'm going to go ahead and locate the company for this patient that we're going to use. And when I look at this screen, down here at this field that says Diagnosis Code Set, it's blank right now, which means if you look at the bottom to use the default, well, the default right now is ICD-9. So for our test, we're going to want this insurance company to create ICD-10 claims. So I'm going to put a 0 in this field and save this, and this company will generate ICD-10 claims for charges that we've put ICD-10 codes in on. For our test, we're going to bring up an account for the insurance that we just changed to have ICD-10 as its code set. So I'm going to bring up account 100, and I'm in the charge entry screen in PMIS. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the clinician. I'm going to put in a CPT code. And when I get to the diagnosis field, you can see that I've got ICD-9s as the default for this patient right now, because we are in an ICD-9 world right now in PMIS. So when I get to the diagnosis field, I'm going to put in the plus sign and hit enter. That lets me see the screen where I can enter multiple diagnosis codes. And for this charge, I'm going to select an ICD-10 code. So I'm going to select ICD-10s using the 9 as the arrow to the 10. So if I go to this first field and I put an exclamation point in front of the 724 and hit enter, it will bring up the list of ICD-9s that begin with 724. So I'm going to select this spinal stenosis thoracic as my diagnosis code in an ICD-9, and what it does is it then shows me the ICD-10s that also point to that ICD-9. So I'm going to go ahead and select this the code that it's on, which is spinal stenosis thoracic region, and then for the next code I'm going to do the same thing. So we're going to go with an elbow fracture, and I'm going to say this is a right humerus fracture. So I've just selected ICD-10 codes to assign to the charges that I'm putting in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and add this, and let's go ahead and update. So we just made changes to the diagnosis code for charges that we entered, and we put in ICD-10 codes for those charges. Because PMIS is driving the diagnosis, because they've increased so much, we're driving that from the patient file. So the diagnosis codes that you put in invoicing are going to point to the diagnosis codes that you have in the patient file. So we're going to need to make sure these diagnosis codes are ICD-10. So I'm going to go ahead and change that, just like we did previously. And I'm going to save this. Now, when you're entering diagnosis codes at the patient level, if you click on this button, you can put in more codes because sometimes you will need more codes to justify the procedure. One thing to understand is that when you put in ICD-10s into the patient file and you're in an ICD-9 preferred code set environment, unless you tell the system by marking the insurance company to put out ICD-10 claims, it's going to downcode these diagnosis codes to the correct ICD-9. So if I were to save this and create a claim for this patient, and we were set up in ICD-9 for that insurance company, it would not put these ICD-10s on the form. It would downcode them to the ICD-9 codes that we started with. So what this means is you're going to be able to start coding an ICD-10 and still have the claims go out with the correct ICD-9s at this point. So when you get to October, the transition date, your patients that you've been working with will already be coded in ICD-10, and October 1st rolls around and you flip the switch, you won't have to do anything. You already have these accounts coded in ICD-10. Okay, now that we have our account set up for ICD-10, I'm going to go to the insurance menu and HCFA 1500 paper claims, because that's the area of the program that we want to use for ICD-10 electronic claims and paper claims now. It's one area. I have left the old electronic claims option in this screen so that you could continue to send claims on your existing format until you have the new format mapped by the clearinghouse. So we're going to go ahead and select HCFA 1500 paper claims. We're going to select the financial classes to include. Primary, I'm going to tell it to include any IC patients. For our test, we're going to use just one patient. And there's a new option that we're going to select down here that says print to electronic claims. So at this point, I think we're ready. We're going to go ahead and create the claim. And yes, we have a claim. And so here's the claim from the charge that we just entered. We have ICD-10s on the form where they belong. We have the pointers on the form. And so our form is now laid out for ICD-10. We have the qualifier that tells the clearinghouse that this is an ICD-10 diagnosis code form, because we have the 0 here as a qualifier. And so that's how we can send a test. At this point, you would go ahead and send this file to the clearinghouse and letting them know ahead of time that you're sending them a file to be mapped. And once that file is mapped, then you could send that file on to a payer for testing, and from that point on you can create all your claims. Even the ICD-9s can still go out using this method. Thank you for watching this video.